Okay, now that we're recording, all of our panelists, would you guys be comfortable introducing yourselves? We have no particular order, so feel free to just unmute and let us know a little bit about your name, your year and program, and then maybe a fun fact.
I can go ahead. Hi, everyone. My name is Asima, and I'm currently in my third year of university at Western University in London, Ontario. I'm doing a honors business administration degree at the Ivy Business School, but I actually did my first 2 years in medical sciences at Western. So the way my program works is you're able to do a 2+2, so do two different degrees within 5 years. So happy to answer any questions about that. And a fun fact about me is in my free time, I really enjoy dancing, particularly Bollywood dancing, for any of you who know that. So it's a great way to kind of de-stress and take my mind off school when I need to.
Okay, I can go next. So my name is Navia. I'm in my second year of health sciences at McMaster right now. A fun fact about me is that I was actually born in South America and I have a twin.
Hi everyone, I'll go next. My name is Miriam. I'm in fourth year of computer science at the University of Waterloo. I'm also in the co-op program. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask me about that because I know it's super popular. And I guess a fun fact about myself is that I did gymnastics for 10 years.
I'll hop on next. My name is Sarah and I'm studying at UBC, so over on the West Coast in Vancouver. And I'm currently in my fourth year studying computer science and business management. And my program, it's a dual degree program, so it's a 5-year program. I'm currently in my fourth year. And on campus, I'm also part of a couple of clubs if you have any questions about that. I'm not in the co-op program, but I've done a couple internships sprinkled throughout my years. So if you have any questions there as well. And fun fact about me. Fun fact is my first ever job, part-time job back in high school was teaching kids how to ride their bike. So that was a lot of fun. I love teaching, learning. So it was really cool to get to do that and be outdoors and spend the summer doing that. Yeah.
Okay, and finally, I'm next. So I'm Annika. I just graduated from U of T actually this past June, and I'm in medical school currently at Western University. So currently in medicine, and fun fact about me is that I've been playing soccer for about 14 years. That's why my hair is wet. I just came back from soccer, so I apologize.
Thank you so much for all the introductions. I'll get us started with the first question, which is why did you choose to attend your university and your program? And if there are any programs that are similar to yours, what makes your program unique from those?
I guess I can start off then. I don't know if we're going in the same order or not, but for my program, the reason I chose to go to Western particularly is because they had that dual degree option. So back in high school, I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do, which is totally fine. I'm still a little unsure. And what was really good about Western's program is that you were able to do 2 years of whatever you wanted. So whether that be like something medical sciences, computer sciences, basic like arts, anything you wanted to do. And then you can go into business in your third year. And then in your fourth and fifth year, you can mix both your original degree and your business degree, so that in 5 years you actually have a business degree as well as whatever other degree you wanted. And so I particularly liked the program because I was able to have that flexibility, and I didn't really find a lot of options to do something similar where I could kind of put my interest in STEM as well as my interest in business together. And so that's kind of why I chose Western. And I know certain programs might have like similar like dual degree or kind of double major options. But I think Westerns was particularly unique because you got like two full bachelor degrees, and I wasn't able to find that anywhere in Ontario.
I think my reasoning is also pretty similar to Seema. I know we both kind of have a business side with mixed with something else. And I guess a little bit about how the program or my program works at UBC is it's also like not a combined major, but 2 degrees. It's a bachelor's degree and a master's of management. So I think coming out of high school or when I was in grade 11, 12, I knew I really liked the business side of things and wanted to learn more about that. But I also kind of knew I had a really strong interest in science, but I didn't really know specifically what specialization or major within the realm of science I wanted to do. So coming to UBC, I applied to this program and then entered the program kind of coming out of high school, because I know you can also apply in later years as well. But I really like to, I know different universities will have different ways of how you apply into your major for your bachelor's degree. And at UBC, for science specifically, you apply to your major at the end of your first year. So once you enter your second year, typically you are in a major specialization program. So I like that I could have that first year to kind of explore, take a bunch of different science courses, and I tried to hit as many prerequisites as possible. And then I ended up taking a computer science course, which I really enjoyed. And then from there, did some more like exploring to figure out that's really what I wanted to major in. So I liked having that year to explore without having to declare a major right when I was entering university.
Yeah, for me, I guess the three biggest reasons why I chose Waterloo is because of the distance, the specializations that they offer, and the co-op program. I guess I chose Waterloo for like the distance. I just knew that I wanted to go to a school that is far away from home, where I can live on like campus or like near school, but also close enough that if I wanted to go back home for like the weekend, I can do that without too much problem. I also liked how Waterloo had like a lot of different specializations that you could do, like in artificial intelligence or like bioinformatics. There's so many different specializations. I'm currently working towards a human computer interaction specialization, so that definitely drew me towards the Waterloo CS program. I know other schools also have specializations, but I saw the HCI at Waterloo and I was like, this is definitely something that I want to learn more about. And then finally, the co-op program at Waterloo allows you to do 6 internships in your degree. So it really allows you to try different domains, different companies, different projects. So it really allows you to diversify your experience in the workforce. And the Waterloo like co-op, I guess, portal really allows you to explore different positions, and this is really helpful if you're in your like first co-op, where it's a little harder to get your hands or like your feet in the door. The portal really allows you to apply to jobs that are only targeted towards Waterloo students, which increases your chances.
So,
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say about my experience with U of T. The reason I think I chose U of T was because I wasn't sure what field I wanted to go into exactly. And in the first year of U of T, like for life sciences, everyone's doing the same thing, and then only in second year is when you actually specialize in something. So I chose biotechnology and chemistry at the end of the day. But I'm doing something completely different now. So even with that, it was kind of like, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'll go into like an overall basic program and figure out what exactly resonates with me. So I did that. And I also found that at U of T, there's a lot of research opportunities, which I fell in love with. And I heard a lot about U of T in terms of research. And I feel as though I wasn't so keen on living outside of home. So I'm from Mississauga, so I went to the Mississauga campus. So it was like a 10-minute drive for me. So everything was super nice and I didn't feel as though I had to like leave home. So in that aspect, that also contributed to why I went there. But overall, I was unsure of what I wanted to do, and I think U of T helped me decide what I wanted to do, but that was through experiences and research opportunities.
Yeah, so for me, I think I had like a similar reasoning in terms of staying close to home. So I go to McMaster, but I live in Oakville, which is like a 29-minute drive from McMaster. For me, I personally value like being close to my family. Like I lived on campus in first year just because I heard from like upper years that it is good to have like that experience of living on your own, but I found myself like coming home like every weekend. On top of that, like I actually hadn't visited McMaster's campus until after I got in. I went for their like May at Mac tour, and I actually really liked the campus. I liked the architecture and like how it has a mix of like old looking buildings, but also like newer buildings. I like the size of the campus.
For my program specifically, something about Mac Health Sci is that they really value group work, like collaboration in projects is a really big thing. I would say the program is more suitable for people who have always liked that kind of stuff. I know for me, I like working with people. I like the presentations we do, and I like the assignments, like their group assignments that we have to do. I feel like if you have a more independent sort of approach to learning, it is something to think about because that is just how the program is built. It's built on collaboration and group work assignments. But yeah, I looked at their course schedule for like not just first year, but first year and beyond. And I love the fact that like they have a hands-on anatomy lab. In their second year, we actually get to work with real human cadavers. And that was really interesting to me. But yeah, I think the program in general is more focused or geared towards someone who would enjoy working in groups, and that's me. So I think it was a good fit for me.
Thank you guys so much for your answers. Every program seems so different from the other, which is really interesting to hear about. So our next question is a little bit less program specific and more just university experience related. So what are some time management or studying tips that you can share with high school students that really helped you in your first or second year?
I feel like I'll go first with this one, just because I kind of had to shift my studying in terms of like from high school to undergrad to now to medicine. It's like you have to change everything that you do, and I feel as though the biggest advice that I can give is, you know, try to figure out how you study best, whether you're a visual learner, whether you're an auditory learner, if you feel as though you like listening to things and then reciprocating it back and trying to study. I found that in undergrad, I was kind of doing all three things and I wasn't sure like, oh, is this what I want to do or is this what I want to do? And now in medicine, everything is like PowerPoints, visual pathways, and it's like I need to figure out how to condense all this information in like a tiny little box. So for me, for time management, schedules is my biggest thing. Like I'm a very type A person. I need schedules like an 8 to 5 or whatever it may be. But um overall, I think from scheduling and just being able to prioritize what you want to study. Like, don't put too much on your plate because at the end of the day, you can't accomplish everything in one day. Being able to like split up your time wisely, being like, okay, I'm going to pre-read my lectures, which just means going over a lecture for an hour. And then, okay, I'm going to study that lecture for an hour. And then that's it. Then I'm done with the material and I move on to something else. Because if you keep looking at the material over and over again, you're just going to bombard yourself and you're going to make yourself anxious. And then that whole cycle happened in first year for me. So first year for me wasn't the best, but I promise you that it's not as daunting as it seems. The biggest advice would be just, schedule your time and try to figure out what type of learner you are to better suit your needs in the transition from high school to university.
I can add on to that. So I definitely agree. Like I'm a very scheduled person, so I like to have like a physical calendar as well as a Google Calendar, which I found super helpful. Because a lot of schools like also like they have their schedules in calendars, and you can link it to your own calendar, so you can have your like personal life as well as your school life all like mapped out by times, which helped me with like scheduling my own time for like clubs and other stuff. One other really good tip I found was using some kind of like study method. So I use the Pomodoro method because sometimes I feel like I need motivation to like someone keeping me on track. So what the Pomodoro method is you work for about 30 to 45 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break in between. And you do this in cycles so you can kind of space out your time and your tasks. And so when I have a really big project or a really big assignment, I use this method to kind of break up the little parts of this bigger assignment and schedule them out between the days so I can stay on track. And I'm trying to avoid as much procrastination during the end. So that's also a tip I tell a lot of students because I found it super helpful, especially if you get really anxious when you're doing big projects or you need something to keep you on task. Chunking them into smaller pieces can really help you manage it more wisely.
Yeah, so for my study skills, I think I'm personally someone who studies like best when I'm alone. I cannot study in groups. Like I feel like it's distracting and I will end up talking to my friends, so I can't really do that. Another thing about me is that I study best in like a place that is extremely quiet, and oddly enough, libraries are not the place for me. I feel like there's always someone whispering or talking and it's just so distracting. So for me, like the best place that I study is like the living room of my house where it's like just me and it's super quiet. In terms of like the actual studying that I get done in my sessions, I find it really helpful to like make a to-do list for what I want to do like in that specific session. And let's just like cross over things as I get them done. I like to start with like the easiest things on my list. I think that kind of like helps motivate me and get me ready to do like maybe some tougher practice problems or something that's a bit more grueling that I know is going to take a bit longer. So that's what I like to do. But also studying is so it's varied based on like the actual course. I think like for courses like chemistry or like math, where it's just like repetitive problems, all you have to do is like you have to do them over and over again. So slotting out a time that's like where you know you're not going to be disrupted, I feel like is a lot helpful, and like making sure it's quiet and you're able to focus on the practice problems you're doing, as opposed to like if I'm doing a writing assignment, I mostly try and squeeze that in between like the tougher things like practice problems. Like if I'm doing like a reflection or like an essay, I just find it easier to get that done when I have time, because I know for me, things that take longest to do are things like chemistry or anatomy. But yeah, making a to-do list and having just a specific number of things to do in a session, not like too many, maybe it's just like 2 or 3, helps me personally. And starting with like the easiest tasks on my list also helps me.
Yeah, I 100% agree with all the great study tips and kind of methods for looking at how you study. Something else I wanted to add on related to time management was just learning how I was going to prioritize things. I think, especially in first year, you have a lot of classes and everything's very new. They tend to have a lot of assignments, a lot of readings, things like that. And then also maybe if you're working a part-time job, if you're part of a club, and also there's a lot of like great events and things to manage in your first year to make the most out of your experience, and learning how to prioritize and like what the value of each thing is kind of bringing to you and looking at it that way. I think, for example, if you have a lot of homework assignments and reading, and some of them you just won't be able to always do everything, or maybe do every single practice problem after a certain amount of time, you're going to have to realize like maybe that's enough. But also thinking about like group projects, trying to prioritize tasks that maybe my partner can't do their part of the assignment until I finish this, so I should prioritize this and get it out of the way first. So I'm not kind of, there's a dependency there, and you don't want to be holding up people. Thinking about kind of the interactions between the different things you're doing and why they're important or who they might be important to can help kind of prioritize tasks and help you figure out what to do first and how much time and effort to spend on different things.
Yeah, I also agree with everyone here. I think for me personally, first year was really tough just because it was very different from high school. The math courses were very different from high school in the sense that they were more theoretical and the content was more dense. There was a lot more content, and every week it seemed like we were just moving on to the next unit, and like I felt very overwhelmed in first year. But one thing that helped me in my second term of first year was that starting assignments early and also doing something for each one of my classes every day, even if it's like just 10 minutes of reviewing notes for the next class, or starting my assignment early just so that I can read over the assignment requirements. It really helped me stay on top of all my classes and also not feel as overwhelmed and have more time to think about my assignment problems, just because I think a lot of the assignments at Waterloo are thinking problems. So like every question is a thinking problem. I don't know if in high school you guys had like the thinking problem questions in your math test, but at Waterloo, a lot of your assignments are just those thinking questions. So like a lot of theory and a lot of like thinking that you have to apply. So just starting them early and then allowing yourself to have enough time to finish.
Thank you all. Sorry. Thank you all for those answers. The next question is also advice oriented, but what advice would you give to students applying to your program to help them stand out? For example, if there is a supplementary application, online interviews, or extracurricular activities that you could do to get a leg up.
Yeah, so my program does have a supplementary application, and the way it works is essentially it's like 2 questions, and each question has like 3 options, like A, B, C, and you have to pick like one option from each of those for a total of writing like 2 questions with a 1,500 character limit. So if you actually think about that, that's not a lot of words. One of the biggest advice that I offer to any like high school student who asks me like, how do I do well on my supplementary application, is that I tell them, don't try to fill your supplementary application with like flowery words. Like try and get to the point and actually answer the question first, like answer what they're asking you. And another thing I find that a lot of kids do is like they'll try and write something to like appeal to the people reading the application. Like they'll try and think from their shoes, but I actually think that's an incorrect approach. You should be writing something that's like genuine to you and unique to you. Like you should write something that if you look at it in 5 years, you can still say, yep, this is true and this represents me really well. Like not, yeah, I think that's something that people forget often. Another thing I tell kids is a lot of people assume it's kind of like a place to like showcase your extracurriculars, like showcase like all these awards you've won or like everything you've done. No, that's not what the supplementary application is for. Mac doesn't do any interviews for their health sciences program. So this is that university's like, this is their only chance to get to know you and know who you are as a person. What I tell people is to write them a story about yourself. Tell them a story about yourself. In 1,500 characters, can they read that and see what kind of person you are? Do you have any hobbies? Do you like knitting? Do you like crocheting? Like, is there something that you like doing? Tell them about that, right? And use the prompts to answer that. I feel like writing about being student council president or how many exec teams you're on, that's kind of like more superficial stuff that honestly leads people to getting rejected. It's not really about, it's not, I know like Waterloo has like their AIF where like you can, that's actually the whole point of it, right? You write your extracurriculars down, but Mac Health Sci Sub App is not that. It's more about like being good at writing and actually telling them a story about yourself, um, as opposed to like checking up all these boxes of things that you've done. So that's another thing, like being genuine and not being afraid to like maybe go against the prompt or go think outside the box, and not being afraid that they're going to penalize you for something. Because honestly, I've seen lots of sub apps and the things people write, they're absolutely beautiful and you just would not expect someone to write that. So yeah, just staying true to your own self and writing from your own heart and your own mind as opposed to like being in the shoes of the people who are reading your sub apps. Because honestly, I'll tell you, they're just fourth years who are reading those sub apps. Like they have some specific things they're looking for, but in general, the criteria is so vague that you could really impress them with anything. It's just about how you phrase things. So yeah, those are a few general tips I would give for health sci sub app.
Just to piggyback on what she was saying, I think that's really important, just being genuine and true to yourself, because I know that for specific at U of T, you didn't have to have a sub app for the program because life science is a very generalized program. You apply, and they'll either accept or not accept you. So there is no supplementary application that you have to put forward. So it's very generalized. But I will say for medicine, it's the exact same story. You don't want to put the cliche answer of, oh, I want to become a physician because I like to take care of people, because that would be something that people or the board members would not totally agree on. So I would say like just, be yourself, say something that you would want to say. Don't try to sugarcoat it, don't try to fancy it up, just be genuine, authentic, and because of that you'll be successful, because even if you were to add a few little flowery words, it may cut you, but just be as genuine as you can. Like, again, I think you said it perfectly before, Navia.
I can add some info about supplementary applications. So when it comes to Western MedSci, it's similar to U of T Life Sci since it's a general program, it's just your grades. But the Ivy program, whether you apply from high school as like the advanced entry opportunity, or you apply once you're in at Western or a different university for third year, does require a pretty extensive supplementary application. And it's a little different from the Mac Health Sci one where you're trying to tell more about like your story and creativity. The Ivy supplementary application does want to know about your leadership opportunities, your collaborative opportunities, and how you have made a difference within your community. So what it usually looks like is that there are areas to write about your awards. you write two longer essays about two specific extracurricular or leadership opportunities that you've had before, and you have space for 5 extra activities. So my best advice when you're writing about activities, it's very easy to just list what you did, like, who you talked to, what you did, and kind of leave it at that. But you want to make sure you kind of deep down and get under that surface level and maybe understand like not only what you did, but why you did it and what kind of impact you had. So a framework that I like to use, and I still use it when I'm doing like job applications today, is the STAR method to kind of write out paragraphs. So the STAR method is situation, task, action, and result. So in that way, you're able to explain what you did. So you kind of get that surface level, but you explain how you did it and what that impact was. So it's really, I still tell like high school students and even students in my year, like when we're trying to write essays, I think it's a really good way to be able to articulate what you did, but also show a bit of your personality, because when it comes to extracurriculars in your IB application, I know a lot of people say, oh, I might as well add a business extracurricular because it's a business school. But I wrote about how I danced with one of my clubs, how I did volunteering in my community. It does not have to be business related at all it has to do is show your leadership opportunities, how you've collaborated with other people, how you've kind of like innovated or done something new, as well as how you're able to make an impact with the skills you have.
Yeah, for the Waterloo AIF, I have a lot of tips for this one, just because you have such little characters to answer, I think the 5 questions, and then you also have to state like all your extracurriculars that you've done since grade 10. So there's very limited space. So my biggest advice is research the school and what you're interested in. Find something that the school offers that other schools don't, whether that be a professor that teaches a specific course that you really, really want to take, or if there's a research committee that you're interested in that Waterloo's really specialized in, or if there's a club that you want to be part of, state something that's very specific to the school and what value you can bring. I think this really helps you differentiate between the other candidates, just because it allows you to be more specific to something that you're passionate about. And if you talk more about it and show that you've done research, it helps state your case.
At UBC, there's kind of similar application to some of the other supplemental applications, but everyone applying to UBC has to do what they call their personal profile. So you kind of have a section where you can list off your extracurriculars or awards you've won, things like that. And then there's a few questions that are part of this personal profile as well that ask questions about like what's important to you or different skills or experiences. And I'd say when you're answering those questions, try and, like I think it was Navia mentioned, use storytelling. Don't just list out skills or qualities or things that are important to you, because a lot of these other people probably have similar values as well, and that's totally okay. But if you can tie it to a story or tie it to show why it's specifically applicable to you or why you learned that or how you found that value, kind of using that whole like show, don't tell mentality of giving them a story that's memorable to tie back to that quality. And then when you're on the other side, the first part, listing out your extracurriculars and stuff, focus on that and try not to just repeat yourself and use all the same examples for your other questions. And then I know depending on the program, there might be additional questions that you have in your profile as well. Some programs have a couple extra questions that are specific to that faculty. And then also, like, for example, for the dual degree program, there was another video application I had to submit, but using kind of that same notion of tell a story, be genuine, maybe point out something that's unique to you, because keep in mind, these people are going through so many of these. So if there's something that's a little bit unique, trying to focus on that or show why that's important, and just showing who you are and being genuine is really important in those, especially in videos where, they're watching you and you're talking in front of a camera.
All right, thanks everyone for sharing your answers. So Aya has been making breakout rooms and they'll open in the next minute or so. So thanks again to our main panelists. In the breakout rooms, there might be a couple more panelists joining us. We just didn't want to overwhelm the general call or the general panel. So as soon as you guys see the breakout rooms popping up, you're free to join whichever one you'd like. And our main panelists most of them will be in those as well.
Yeah, thanks for coming to the main panel. Post breakout rooms, we will reconvene back here just for closing statements, and then yeah, the breakout room should be opening right now.